Ukraine has asked for help from its European neighbours following massive Russian airstrikes. Ukraine said 15 different regions were hit by Russia's attack that reported several civilian casualties. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said the missile and drone bombardment was one of the largest of the war and that it caused heavy damage to infrastructure, disrupting power and water supplies. Zelenskyy called on Ukraine's allies to supply more long-range weapons and to lift all conditions on their use.
There should be no restrictions on the range of weapons for Ukraine, while terrorists have no such restrictions. Defenders of life should face no restrictions on weapons, while Russia uses all kinds of its own weapons, as well as Shahed drones and ballistic missiles from North Korea. The United States, the United Kingdom, France and other partners have the power to help us stop terror. We need decisions.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy speaking there, and I'm now joined by the military analyst Marina Miron. Marina, we just heard Zelenskyy there. What would lifting the restrictions change for Ukraine? Would it make any real difference on the battlefield right now?
Good afternoon, Gerhard. Well, what President Zelenskyy is essentially asking is to be able to use long-range missiles, the likes of Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles, on Russian territory. The first thing we have to understand is that how those missiles would be delivered. Does Ukraine have the capability right now to use its air power anywhere close to the border? And that would depend on Russian ground-based air defenses, how much maneuverability the F-16s have in that area and how well the Russians can defend it. So it's not sure if these could change anything. And the second part of this question is whether Western allies have enough stock of Storm Shadow and Scalp missiles to supply Ukraine with, all political considerations and proverbial red lines aside. So it does not guarantee that there will be a change positive for Ukraine if it was allowed to use at least what it has in stock. Would it have political ramifications, perhaps for Western countries? We don't know.
Now, a huge bombardment on Kyiv and other places today. Is this Putin's retaliation for Ukraine's progress in the Kursk region?
Well, should we link it to anything? Perhaps the Ukrainian Day of Independence on 24th of August. Russia couldn't obviously launch a strike then because the prisoner exchange was underway. Could be. But generally speaking, I think Russia has been randomly attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure throughout the war from the very beginning with limited degrees of success because of how sturdy, specifically Soviet infrastructure has been built. So I think it's more of a continuation of what Russia has been already doing. And it's quite a complex strike, what we have seen, with a lot of missiles and drones being used, some being fired from the Caspian Sea. Therefore, I think that Russia is preparing to degrade Ukrainian energy infrastructure ahead of winter. If we calculate the overall damage, it's 9 gigawatt that Russia has taken on in terms of energy. That's half of the winter peak consumption for 23 for Ukraine. So that's quite substantial.
Now, Russia just today has also said it had hit Ukrainian forces in Kursk, the Ukrainian-held territory in Russia. What are Ukraine's chances of holding that area?
Well, firstly, it depends on what are the Ukrainian aims in Kursk. Are the Ukrainian forces going to go for Koryneve and Rylsk and try to take more territory, or are they trying to stay where they are right now and reinforce and strengthen their positions there, entrench themselves and just hold that land? So that's the first question. Let's assume the later. So let's assume they will stay. Unfortunately, it's difficult to say what are Russian aims. Are they trying militarily to draw the Ukrainians out, or is it the other way around? Are they allowing the Ukrainians to stay long enough there in order to have the Ukrainian forces tied there, because the line of contact has been lengthened, and has been lengthened not necessarily in Ukraine's favor from a military perspective. Therefore, it depends not only on Ukrainian aims and abilities, but also on the fact whether Russia will send more reinforcements to draw these forces out. Then they have much less chance of holding the land. But even the Russian commentators are saying, well, it will take time to get them out. But in a strategic picture, does it make sense to hold that land? Will it help Ukraine strategically? And one Ukrainian colonel said in an interview to Estonian newspaper that he doesn't think that this operation to impact the Russian people has had the desired effect.
Marina Miron there. Thank you very much, Marina.
Thank you for having me.